7 years of $10 million implementations are gone. Everyone wants a platform that they can launch very quickly with a small budget so that they can crawl and run and so on. So the platform has to handle a lot of use cases out of the box. People like this whole low code and high configuration concept is what people want. And in fact, if I were an owner of a company, manufacturer, distributor, master distributor, if you chose a platform, what would you do? Now that we have so much experience, I as an owner is only going to buy a platform that allows me and that shows me, hey, speed to market and high configuration. So I need to be able to do a lot more configuration. I need to be able to launch it quickly. There's no 2-year project anymore. And then number 3, I need flexibility to be able to do what I want to do. Because if you put me in a box and say you got to do the same exact thing that others do, then my uniqueness you're taking away.
So Rupesh, first of all, we've known each other for longer than I want to admit.
Yeah, like 20 years, 2008?
2008.
Yeah, like 17 years.
Yeah, 2008, 2009. I joined Endeca in 2009, which I think is when we probably
Yes, I think we met in 2009,
yeah,
yes.
2009. I started doing this stuff in 2007 and 2009. And what were you doing back in 2009?
So I had started an e-commerce SI, and we were a system integrator and sort of a digital agency. At the time, the word digital agency wasn't there. There were just SIs and implementers.
Yeah.
And then everyone, yeah. So pretty much I was implementing e-commerce solutions, right? It was more of a software engineering and consulting practice where you'll get projects to go do and implement, platforms, right, for customers. And obviously today, they're called like CX and digital agencies and so on. And the world has, come a long way. But
then there wasn't any. Back then there was like 3 B2B e-commerce companies that could handle B2B e-commerce. Only a few that could handle search. So you guys started on the search side, right? You guys were our relationship started with Endeca, and you guys being kind of a key Endeca search navigation partner.
Yeah, so the story goes a little bit more before that. So I was working for a company called Brady Corporation in Milwaukee here.
Oh yeah.
And a $1.8 billion company now, but at the time it was like 600 million in sales, and we had implemented IBM WebSphere. Okay, and there were 30 IBM consultants that were implementing one site for a year on IBM WebSphere, and I was hired as a software engineer so that when IBM was done, we could take over. Okay, so we had a small team, 4 or 5 people at Brady, who was in charge of like this IBM WebSphere site after IBM was done implementing. This is like 2000. And then in 2003, my boss, and at the time it was just software engineering boss for e-commerce site, right? Like even he was probably at the 4th level of IT, sort of, CIO, VP, director, and then this manager. So our manager and us as developers, we pitched to Brady that IBM WebSphere is too big for Brady, and we're too small for that product and the size of team needed to manage it and maintain it. So we basically pitched, why don't we write a custom, e-commerce platform for Brady? And we had found Endeca and chosen Endeca for search and navigation piece of it for all of the custom software that we're going to write.
What year was
Brady.
this?
So this was between 2003 and 2005, right? Is when we started that journey. I think we chose Endeca in 2005, 2006.
Okay.
And we implemented our own custom e-commerce platform. We did that for a couple of years. And then in 2008, I left Brady and said, I'm going to start my own SI firm and do Endeca implementations and other e-commerce platform implementations and so on. And in 2008 and 9, there weren't too many platforms, There were the big guys like the IBM WebSphere, the Fry Commerce. I don't know if you remember that.
Fry, yeah.
Right? And there's Endeca for search and navigation, and there were like just big, ATG was coming out or gaining traction. And then Magento came, right? So, Magento was like similar to Shopify, disrupting because it was free and everyone needed that. And the e-commerce wave had just started in the B2C world. So anyways, caught that wave and built this SI practice between 2008 to 2014. In 6 years, I built a company of 600 consultants here in Milwaukee and Ann Arbor and India together, but 600 people doing implementations. And then we had also matured from like being an SI in 2008 to a full service digital agency. We've got marketing services, CX, implementation, ongoing. So there were practices across the board, right? And our focus was mainly B2B. So we were basically competing in those days. We were competing with the Acuity groups and so on of the world.
Yeah.
Right? Different days. Different days.
So I started, Rupesh, in IBM Webster Commerce too. So I was part of an agency called Brulant and then Rosetta.
Yes.
And we were like a, major. So just a side note. Like 2008 to 2012 was also the time of like $2 million software deals and $10 million services deals.
Yes,
Those are the golden years in e-commerce, like across the board. Didn't matter B2C, B2B. We never sold a deal under 500,000. They were all 500,000.
Just search and navigation deals were $250,000 to $500,000.
I know, search and navigation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. So that was called Xeon Solutions that you started back then. And then you sold that in 2014?
So I sold it 2015 in January, right? So the reason I sold it was I was 38 years old when I sold it, okay? Mm-hmm. And I came home and I told my wife, I am tired of fixing other platform issues, because the customer, we are the interface with the customer, and the license guys sell the product and go away, the software companies, right? Salesforce will come and, sell and go away. Yeah,
that's the beauty of being a software company.
And we are the ones who take the heat from the customer, and I can only take so much pain, right? Especially like, these B2C platforms are trying to, become the B2B platforms, and, just like today. And software guys didn't care who they were selling to and what they were selling. They just wanted the license signed, right? And we as the agency pretty much had to represent them and go do things for the customer, take the heat. And so I came home and I told my wife that, I've done this long enough, and how much pain can you take? So it's too much because we take the brunt of from the customer, and it's a software problem. But anyways, long story short, be careful what you wish for. My thought was I'm gonna come out of agency world, and all this experience that me and my team have gained doing 250 plus implementations. Really, wow. Justin, we did 250 plus implementations.
That's incredible.
And I'll tell you, we never failed. And I'll tell you the reason why we didn't fail. Because the company was led by a software engineer. It wasn't a sales or a finance driven company. It was a software engineering driven company. So any problems during implementations we would run in, we'll find a solution and get it done. Okay, that was Xeon Solutions. Okay, and so I thought, well, if we can do this, we can build a better product that customers actually need. Okay.
Be careful what you wish for.
I was going to say the exact same line. Be careful what you wish for. Okay. So I take like the best engineers of my team, who are itching to write their own platform. When you're in a services company, you have these top talent that is itching to write their own product.
Absolutely.
So I said, guys, be careful. You wanted this, so here we go now. We are gonna. So the good news was we were able to acquire Znode. They already had a customer base. They were a pretty light platform. They're in the right technologies with Microsoft, right? So So we didn't have to fill gaps of PHP and open source and whatnot. Yeah, they're in the right sort of technology stack and so on. So we thought, well, why don't we pick this platform as a base and rewrite the whole thing, right? With everything that we have learned and so on. So that's where the 2016 journey started to sort of dominate B2B e-commerce. That was our vision and goal.
Yeah.
It's like we are going to do it. We're going to do it better than others, and so on. So that's how the whole idea of the platform came together.
The other thing, I mean, I think it's just interesting. A lot of people that listen to this also kind of listen for ideas and thoughts about the progression of their own career, right?
Yep.
And running services businesses is a real it's an easy way to start, right?
Yes.
It's an easy way to transition out of something and into something new on your own. And you can start it by yourself, and then you can build a couple people, and then you can grow. But you also start to realize that you make the same amount of money with 10 people as you make with 200 people. Like you individually, typically, I mean, it's an exaggeration a little bit. You make more money, but
no, but you're right. You're right.
You typically make the same amount.
The percentage starts reducing drastically with number of people.
Yeah, so, and then you realize you sit up and realize I got a 600-person company, and I'm making the same amount as I was making when I had 20 people or whatever. It's just a funny thing in the services business, and it's a great way to go.
Yeah, can I share a classic story?
Yeah, please.
So 2013 and 14, right? We were killing it, right? We're the fastest growing agency in the US. We are choosing projects we want, literally. We were choosing projects. I was walking away from projects that I wanted competitors to get. Okay? Right? Because, you always run into customers who want the world. The budget is small. The timeline is small. Those are the projects you want to walk away, right? Because they want everything, but somehow competition is saying they can do it for half the price. And so on. So me being a software engineer, we were walking away from projects. Okay. But here's the other kicker. I used to be on planes traveling with my sales guys to prospects who are ready to sign the project, and I'm not excited. I'm like, who's going to do the work? We only have so much capacity, right? So as we grew to 600 people, it was really managing. I was spending more time capacity, bench management, utilization versus doing core stuff that I love as a software engineer.
I hear that. And then you start to, especially as you start to reach 40, you start to think about, okay, what are the things that I want? Like like you establish yourself as an expert. Like that's clear, right? And for people listening, like truly an expert in B2B e-commerce, search, navigation, e-commerce platforms, technology, just in general. Rupesh is like without a doubt one of the greats when it comes to this whole B2B e-commerce world that we care about. And so you get in your start approaching your 40s, like what are the things that I want to do, and how do I use like my identity, my expertise in what we do moving forward. And it starts to make you think differently about what you want to do especially in the next 10 years, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly where my thought came in of doing a best, or better B2B e-commerce product, right natively from start versus our competitors trying to make their B2C as B2B product, right? So that's the gap we identified, and that's how the Znode journey started.
So 2016. So you sold Xeon to Proficient, I believe, right?
Yeah.
In 2015, 2016, you start working in Znode. And you brought a lot of your team with you.
Yeah. So not everyone, but the top talent who was excited about product, who had been itching about doing product, who had already given their decade to e-commerce, who understood B2B. So I would say we got a bunch of folks and team members that were passionate about B2B e-commerce. And then obviously, as a startup, we couldn't afford to bring 500 people, right? So we had to start the journey with a small team, understanding the market space, understanding what we can do. And that's where the journey started. But pretty quickly we had to expand the team because B2B e-commerce, product is big, right? I mean, there's lots of use cases you got to solve for. So by 2017, end of 2017, we were already 200 people,
Wow.
because there's just so much to do and write and so on. And the be careful what you wish for starts to hit you, and we got very lucky because as soon as 2018 arrived, we started signing some customers, and they saw how we are unique and how capable we are, and they started trusting us.
Walk through the progression of the platform itself. So it started with a pretty large group of customers, mixed B2C, B2B. You kind of made the pivot and said we're moving towards the B2B landscape. And you kind of put your guys and your architects and all those people on, where did you kind of start? Like, where did you kind of start? And what's become your focus, even when you think about B2B? B2B's large, manufacturing, distribution, multiple industries. Where have you guys found the most success, especially over the last couple of years?
So that's a great point, right? So we all agree, right? When people say B2B, right, it's like 1/1000th of the variation, right? B2B, just like you said, manufacturing, distributor, master distributor versus, little distributor versus a mid-sized distributor, right? We have these master resellers that are bigger than manufacturers,
Right.
right? And their B2B world is way different than a regular distributor, right? Then there is B2B2C or B2B2X models where, you're serving B2B, but the end consumer is buying that,
Yep.
right? So pretty quickly, just in 2018-19, we started realizing that B2B is unique to the nth level, right? And as we want to claim like leaders in B2B, we got to make sure that we start to not do every possible use case, but we have to have extreme flexibility to do some of these use cases and out of the box so that there's speed to market. Like I said, like you mentioned, right? The golden years of $10 million implementations are gone. Everyone wants a platform that they can launch very quickly with a small budget so that they can crawl and run and so on. So the platform has to handle a lot of use cases out of the box, right? People like this whole low code and high configuration concept is what people want. And in fact, Justin, if you were an owner, right? If I were an owner of a company, manufacturer, distributor, master distributor, if you chose a platform, what would you do, right? Now that we have so much experience, I as an owner is only going to buy a platform that allows me and that shows me, hey, speed to market and high configuration, right? So I need to be able to do a lot more configuration. I need to be able to launch it quickly. There's no 2-year project anymore. And then number 3, I need flexibility to be able to do what I want to do. Because if you put me in a box and say you got to do the same exact thing that others do, then my uniqueness you're taking away. Look, Amazon never bought a platform because they had to be unique and they had to do what they need to do, right? That's the difference in B2B is like I see like a lot of platforms, are claiming B2B and yes, they're marketing to the masses, but I would say as a B2B company, right? As a B2B user, you need to make sure you're putting your customer in the forefront and give them the unique flexibility as to why do they do business with you.
Yeah.
And you can't take that away. So that's our understanding. That's where, you ask about progression. That's the biggest progression we had is how do we, let our customers who are buying Znode as a software, let them do what they need to do for their customers, period, right? Without compromise. How do we let them do that?
I think what you're saying there too, and I think this is a pretty clear distinction, is you guys have made some design choices to be as comprehensive as possible with your platform for your customer. Search, content management recently, commerce,
Yep.
multi-store or multi-branch, or however we talk about it in
Yeah, yeah,
B2B.
yeah, yeah.
And so that when companies use your platform, they're able to take advantage, so that they may not have to plug into another stack. They can, but they don't have to. And that is
You're
that an accurate way
absolutely
to say
right.
it?
Yeah, so our model, right, again, coming from the SI world, coming from the agency world, right? When you implement a platform and within a month you realize, oh my God, I got to go find another search provider.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my marketing team is frustrated because I got to go find a CMS system, right? I need to go find another third party for PIM, right?
Yep.
Right? To me, the equation starts breaking because all these things take time, Justin. So now what has happened is you have made a roadmap for 2 years to get basics together, right? And by that time, half the marketing team has already changed. Who made those decisions,
Right. It's good.
right?
That's a good point.
So to me, Justin, and this is what we saw as an SI, right? Companies would choose a platform, then they'll be frustrated with search. So then we are recommending them, you got to go buy this third-party search,
Right.
right? Three things. Time adds up, so the speed to market, money adds up, and this whole spider web of platforms add up to your
Mm-hmm.
to your backlog, right? And now you're carrying that. And guess what is going to happen? By the time you have spent 4 years doing all this, there'll be an RFP out because you're frustrated with all that.
Yeah.
And companies keep spending time doing the same journey and again and again. And we see this with large companies especially, you know. So here is what we did. We said, guys, $100 million company, right, doesn't have so many things. They don't have a 5-year plan. They don't have $10 million, right? They need a platform that works. Okay, that was sort of our ideal, right? So we need to have a CMS that is extraordinary, right? It doesn't need to do everything that a full standalone CMS needs to do, but it needs to do enough very easily for what B2B e-commerce needs. Okay, we need native search so that as soon as they import their products, the search is working. They don't need a search expert to come and fine tune it. They don't need to spend 5 months implementing Bloomreach or some other search tool, right? Because look, it's an overkill for them, you know. And so that was our sort of our key objectives is to how do we make a 3 people marketing team's job easy
Right.
and less reliant on IT and less reliant on 5 different technologies.
And the reality of that, Rupesh, is that most companies, I mean, there's 250,000 distributors in the U.S., 250,000 manufacturers in the U.S. Most of the companies are below $4 billion in that, right? There's only a handful above that. And so, and most of the companies have limited resources, right? Limited resources, limited people. So they have a small team, like you just said, they have 2 or 3 people.
Yep.
They have limited budget and limited time to be able to achieve this. And so you're kind of meeting that for the majority of the market. I think though too, Rupesh, because of your software background, you've also made smart decisions along the way about what should be included.
Yep.
A lot of companies start in B2C, right? And obviously the platform was kind of mixed when you started, but you made, like, all of your design decisions were aimed towards that B2B2B market. Industrial distribution, medical supplies,
100%.
oil and gas, food service versus retail. And you've made being more of a technical architect yourself, search is something that is is more than adequate. It's not basic search. It's adequate search to your individual architecture standards going back to Endeca in 2008.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
We have a dedicated, I'm proud, Justin, that we have a dedicated team of search, just search, within our product team, which is as large as some of these search companies that they have.
Yeah. Talk. So you guys have done a couple things. Before I talk about a couple things, you taught me something very valuable a couple years ago. So I was at your office a couple years ago, and then we were going to go to dinner. And we got in your car, and you had a Tesla, and you're like, "Watch this." And we drove from your office to the restaurant without you touching the wheel, and I had never seen that before in my life.
Yeah.
We were in Milwaukee, and so you put it on literally on auto drive, whatever they call it.
Yep.
And you blew my mind that technology was out there. So I learned something valuable on that time. You guys have done a couple of things that I want to dig into. One is multi-store. Like why is multi-store important in what you guys have built inside B2B?
So Justin, and we take it a lot higher than multi-store, but I'll give you some background on that. And a lot of platforms are claiming we have multi-store, but look, it's not that. When we look at multi-store, when you look at manufacturers and distributors, they have vertical channels, they have horizontal, they have store-specific catalogs, they have, each of these large distributors, they're buying another company that might be in a different region, right? They might want to keep that same brand. They're not ready to merge them in. So now they need to launch two sites, one for their core and one for this new company that they just acquired, right? So what we quickly learned was multi-store isn't just slapping another site. It's a completely different business that this multi-store has to be able to support. It could have its own ERP, it could have its own product catalog, it could have its own uniqueness, right? Because as a distributor, you just bought another company, they have their certain ways of doing the business, right? And we know, have the acquisitions in corporate America fail as soon as you buy them and make them do the things your way, right? And you take that uniqueness away. It works in cost optimization, but then you also see the top line dropping pretty quickly, right? So we wanted to make sure multi-brand, multi-store, multi-companies within an organization, right? They're all supported in their unique ways. So our multi-store capabilities are by far and beyond way ahead of any of our competitors, right? Because we allow for all of that. Like you can launch 2 stores on Znode today, and one could be connected to a different ERP, the other could different with completely different product catalog and attribution and classification and customer base, and you won't even notice any difference. And like we talked about search, you don't have to do nothing. It automatically creates these search indexes for 2 different stores. You don't have to call a search provider twice saying, hey, I just bought another company, we got to add this. Everything is natively handled. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Justin?
So you talked about distinction. What about shared?
Yes.
So what about the things that you want shared, or you maybe grow into sharing things between those stores?
So everything is configurable to us. So first of all, we look at true multi-store as like a menu of options. You just go toggle things on and off so that these 2 different stores or 8 different stores. I mean, we have customers who are running $500 million through 700 stores on one single platform.
Wow.
Okay. We have a customer running, like you saw at B2B, 2,000 programs for a school that is completely unique for each program. And they don't even have an IT staff. Their administrators manage everything, right? That's the power. So yes, basically based on the configuration, you can have shared things, you can have not shared things, you can turn features on, turn features off, and the storefronts automatically handle it, right? You don't have to write a single line of code for those things.
One kind of use case inside a multi-store that often isn't just, you started alluding to it there, is customer specific stores, right? So
Yep.
that, because a lot of these distributors or manufacturer might have a customer that, has large volume with its own distinct needs and rules and things like that happen.
Absolutely.
And that becomes a great multi-store kind of use case that you guys handle pretty amazingly. I think then that multi-store then leads to not just multi-store, but things inside the company that
Yes.
might fall into multi-store, like sales having their own tools to use. And I know you guys have done a lot of work in kind of sales enablement with
Yes.
kind of taking that multi-store to a internal use case instead of a external one.
Yeah, so we have what is called our commerce portal, like a sales rep app, right?
Okay.
That's just like a storefront, but it's for sales reps. Okay, we have what is called a B2B2X model, right, or B stores, where a manufacturer might have distributors who get their own app and a dashboard to manage their stores. Okay, and they're not logging to the master admin. They get their own, front end app. So our whole idea is like, the iPhone model. There's apps around Znode that allow for all these different things, right? Sales rep portal, web storefront, for consumers and B2B buyers to go buy stuff, right? But then there is also, B stores where distributors need their dashboard to see how many orders are being placed on their site, which is part of the multi-store, right? So, and Justin, this is where you have seen it and I've seen it. When you talk B2B commerce, there is all these unique use cases, right? And what we tell our customers is, hey, today you might have this one need, okay? And probably 5 platforms can do that, maybe, right? But as you grow, when you see your decades of journey that is coming in front of you, as you start looking at your phase 2, phase 3, phase 7 list of items, this is where we outshine everyone because we have all that ready to go. Because of just our ecosystem of apps around the core platform.
So you guys have, during B2B Online, which was just earlier this week, you guys kind of made some big announcements with some new releases of the platform that you've done over the last week or so, or the last month. Talk to me about some of those new releases and the importance of that and kind of the reasons behind those new releases.
Great question. So a couple of years ago, we sat down and said, okay, hey, we have come a long way as a company. We started in 2017, 16, right? We've built a great platform. We've got customer adoption. But we do QBRs, Justin, believe it or not. We do quarterly business reviews with every customer.
Wow.
Even today. Our sales guys aren't just reaching out to them on an annual basis to get the contract renewed. We actually do QBRs in a religious, disciplined manner, okay? And our CSM, customer success team, meets with them. So one of the things we heard was, hey, Znode provides a lot of flexibility. Customers are very happy, but they want it to be like Shopify, where there's no updates required, right? Big ask, because these are the same customers who are running 700 sites with a lot of complexity and a lot of their special ways that they want to do business,
right.
But they don't want the pain of upgrade.
Yep.
Make sense? So that was one thing, that was a big challenge that we wanted to solve. Like, how do we make upgrades possible, but at the same time allow for a lot of flexibility to change things? Okay?
Yeah.
So that's the big release that we have done, is we are doing distributed SaaS. So there's still black box of the core, platform, but then you do all the extension and customizations around that black box, So, and the black box you cannot touch. So you get a combination of SaaS, plus you still want to be able to do things your way. Your database is still segregated, right? Your customer data is still segregated. It's not in the multi-tenant SaaS, single stuff, right? Scalability. We have customers with 5 million SKUs, Justin.
Wow.
So, scalability, automatic updates, distributed SaaS. So you continue the journey of innovation, you get more. So that's the big thing we have solved. Okay.
And just for everybody listening, like one of the biggest problems in multi-tenant SaaS, kind of true SaaS, is that as you start adding, things like in PIM, as you start adding more products and more attributes, and that database itself gets bigger, and you multiply that times all the customers you have, the performance capabilities on that data become really untenable, right? And so you start to have to limit, hey, you can only do this, or you can only do that, or we only allow for this. And I think what you're saying here, Rupesh, is that distributed SaaS, as you've called it, you have a mix of both multi-tenant SaaS and kind of protected environments that allow you to push changes between them fluidly without disruption, and upgrading without having to upgrade, but with the protection of their kind of business logic and their data and their customer data, and some of those technology challenges that you have.
Absolutely.
With that. Interesting.
Yeah. Because Justin, let's be very real, and B2B, right? Customers, they need a lot of customizations and extensions, right?
Yeah.
Like, for example, the school uniform business that I'm talking about, right? They've grown 1,000% in the last 5 years. Okay, they're growing 70% year over year, Justin. Okay, they need to do certain things certain way.
Right.
They can't change their business model because they need to go to this multi-tenant SaaS, which is very rigid. Yep. They need the flexibility. They need the flexibility to the nth degree. Right? This is like the business model. I would say maybe you do write your own custom e-commerce platform. Everyone runs away from that.
Right.
But if your business is so unique, so the way I look at it is, these are the customers whose Znode is perfect because they didn't have to write custom platform. They got everything to write custom platform, but only 20% of it on top of something like us. Make sense?
Yeah.
And that's our customer, But I'll tell you, pretty much every B2B.
That's B2B. I mean, it's the reason why we have so much complexity, and it's hard. And it's hard to transition. I think is distributed SaaS your guys' word, or is it something in the industry that
it's my word?
It's a Rupesh word.
It's a Rupesh word, Rupesh and team word.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. So the benefits
because
of SaaS.
I did want a true SaaS. Everyone, you call our competitors like Magento, Optimizely, anybody you call, oh yeah, we are SaaS. Nobody is SaaS, Justin. They're just cloud. All they've done is move the hosting from Rackspace to cloud.
Right.
SaaS means no upgrades.
Right.
That's the big thing, right? That's true SaaS platform.
If we get in the mind of manufacturing distributor, we discuss this like in the courses that we have. Like every CIO knows the pain of upgrade, right? They have to upgrade their ERP. Every time they have to upgrade their ERP, it's a long project, a very difficult project. Like walking in and talking about no upgrade, like you don't even have to say SaaS. Walking in and talking about, hey, in our software platform, unlike your other software platforms that you have, like your ERP, like you do not have to upgrade. Like upgrades are seamless. Like you always, it's versionless, right?
Yes.
And another way to say that. And talking about that with a CIO is value add to that guy, because 100%. He doesn't have to add it to his list because he knows the pain of upgrades, right? He worries about his job every time he does an upgrade.
Justin, I don't even have to ask the CIO. We do QBRs every quarter, right, with hundreds of our customers. And guess what? The most complex customer also expects SaaS, no upgrades.
Right.
They're spending millions of dollars customizing every year, but they still want no upgrades, Justin.
Right.
And I'll tell you why though, Justin. I figured out why they want no upgrades. Not just for painfulness and dollars and time, It's because when I just optimize something and released a new feature or optimized something or released a new security thing, they want it to be
They
available
want to take
right away.
advantage of it. Yeah.
They don't want to go to a webinar, hear all that, but then come and tell their team, well, we can't have it because we need to upgrade and our plan is to do that next year.
Right, right. I would imagine your guys' platform is more checkbox, like, do you want this, yes or no, turned
Yes.
on, yes or no, versus
Yes.
it's just making decisions about what you want to do based off of the use cases that you have versus
You got it.
a technology decision or a time decision. That's pretty incredible. I saw at the show, I also saw some capabilities around custom tables, which I found very, very interesting, right? Can you talk a little bit about custom tables and and I also saw, I think it was custom tables, and I saw attributes on attributes, like you could actually create metadata on current attributes, which is actually a massive problem in the B2B comm space when it comes to like things like unit of measure and things like that.
Yeah.
Talk about why some of those features were built.
So Justin, I would say these are all towards, how do we deliver our software and more flexibility
Yeah.
without writing code? Make sense?
Yeah.
That's the whole idea here. So again, using our SI days, using your consulting days, right? There's a core software, and anytime business users open their mouth, they're asking for things that their customers need. What happens? What is the traditional approach? Developers go build things around platforms. They go customize the platforms. They go add a custom table around a platform to manage those things. They go add custom metadata databases to go manage those things. And we said, well, if we already have learned that 100 times in our 250 plus implementations, why not make it easy in our platform for developers to do that? So and wrap around APIs and everything to be available for these things, so that there is work, but we have reduced it by 80%. Okay, that's one. Two, we have given it in the core technology, so we have prevented them massively customizing things. Okay. Three, Justin, because as we go to distributed SaaS and auto updates and stuff, we need to give a lot of things in the core, because then people have less needs of customizations, right? And speed to market and so on. So the way I look at it is, these are all building blocks that are available in the platform to make it easy for the partners, for the customers to consume these capabilities, seamlessly.
Yeah. What's an example of how someone would use a custom table?
Great idea. Great question, right? So you are a B2B company, okay? And you sell to your distributors based on some of their demographics and data from last year. So I'm a manufacturer, a distributor logs in, and I need to show a catalog based on what that distributor sold last year. Okay? That data is sitting in an ERP somewhere. Okay? I need to expose that and use that in the eCommerce when the distributor is logging in, right? I can now easily say, hey, I'm going to go build this custom table through the Znode admin, and there's no limitations to that. You can create unlimited of custom tables, unlimited number of fields and attributes on that table. It's very fluid, okay? You can do it right through the admin console or using APIs. We have microservices that allow you to do that. You connect that through our commerce connector. You connect those custom tables to ERP, so now that data is available to you. So now in my storefront, which is my nice, cool SPA, React-based storefront, the distributor logs in. I can now use a custom API to read that data to manage my catalog or the search and so on a little bit. Make sense? Like that's one example. I'll give you even more simple example. You are a distributor who has got plumbing business, okay? These small 5 people plumbing companies, they are the distributor's customers, okay? Within my office, the administrator usually logs in and places an order, okay? But when they log in their dashboard, they want to see warranty information for all the jobs they did, okay? Somewhere this warranty data is there.
Yeah.
Okay? can I push it to Znode?
So what?
Create a custom table, push it in, bam.
And warranty information typically is not involved in a PIM and other things like that.
Exactly.
So it would be custom built, so you can have a custom table. And I would imagine over time, Rupesh, as you guys kind of look at that too, you guys might, if you have 30 customers that are asking about warranty information, then you kind of roll warranty type capabilities.
We already have warranty
Yeah,
hooks and all that built in. I was just using that as an example. Let's use another example. Let's say this distributor has rewards that they do it in a very special way for these plumbing companies. Okay? I need that data. What I'm saying is that there's so many things, Dustin, you probably have seen. In my account, guys, I need to see this information. Oh, it's not available in commerce. What do I do? Okay, you can call an API in ERP, but it's very cumbersome and it's very slow. Okay, is there a way I can push it here?
Mm-hmm. I think too, Rupesh, you also have challenges in search, right? Anytime you're calling APIs and things like that, it's very difficult, if not impossible, to include that into search. And so now with these custom tables, you're able to affect search by some of these parameters as well, which makes it super interesting,
And great question, right? Like so like for example, I'll give you the school uniform business. The first entry point, so it's a B2B2X model, right, Justin? Mm-hmm. The retailer sells into schools. Okay, so their sales reps across the country, they're going visiting schools and selling to schools. The buyer is a mom or dad. Okay? So the mom comes in, what is the first thing? They need to be easily able to find their school so that they make sure they don't buy uniform for a wrong school. Mm-hmm. Okay? Now, so there's school data, right? And now that they've grown to 2,000 plus schools, and mind you, some of these schools are franchises. So within those 2,000 schools, a school might have 3,000 locations across the country. Mm-hmm. Okay? So now this data resides in a custom table. Okay, because this is the first entry point. This is not an e-commerce, right? This is not typical B2B e-commerce to manage school data, right? So you use a custom table to manage the school list and the location list and whatnot, right? Guess what? You go to Znode and create index for that, so that now and Deca like tool like Elastic can serve that searchability. Mm-hmm. So now as a mom, when you're coming and typing your school, the experience has to be as if you're searching for a product, like you misspelled the school and whatnot, and I need to see my school, right? And bam, right? So again, these are the advanced capabilities that we want to solve.
And I think everybody listening can kind of point to, your customers have so many different hierarchies between them, right? And
exactly.
So a platform will have certain hierarchies, but you have certain hierarchies that are very specific to your industry, or you might have buying group hierarchies or different types, and it's just specific to you and specific to your industry, and being able to do that kind of natively in the platform is pretty amazing. Well, one thing you said there too, just to get a little technical too, Rupesh, is there's been a lot of conversations about mock and non-mock and stuff like that, but you've said it multiple times here. You have kind of APIs that are built for that, so it's composable, headless ready. If I hear what you're saying.
Our platform is 100% headless, right? Or storefront is fully React. It calls APIs, right? Or admin calls APIs. We have been headless since day one, since 2017 when we started rewriting.
Right.
But guess what, Justin? We never joined mock. We never guys. Headless is the basic expectation now. Composable is the basic expectation, right? But even more important, how does $100 million distributor care? They need speed to market and all that.
That was gonna be my point. Is like headless is one thing, but your customers don't even have to know it's headless.
Yes.
The ones that want to know it's headless can know it's headless, and the ones that want to understand that and plug into it and things like that can take advantage of that, and the others never even have to know.
Exactly.
That's amazing. Anything else you want to kind of point out about what you're doing?
No, so I think the big thing is, look, when we look at ourselves, right? And what I'll tell customers is, guys, B2B is unique. Don't fall into the trap. People go out of business because they choose the wrong platform these days. Literally, right? We had one of our customers, their largest $100 million competitor, went out of business because, they went on the wrong platform, right? I mean, these are big, important decisions, right? Do not take them lightly. And the biggest thing is, I would say, guys, find a platform that serves your unique needs very easily, right? Or without any pain, right? And so again, that's what we are here to solve, Justin.
Yeah, amazing. How do people get a hold of you guys and your team, Rupesh?
Znode.com, go request a demo, meet us at events, obviously trade shows, but the best is, it's very easy to just go on Znode.com.
Excellent. Thanks for being here, Rupesh. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Hey, Justin, always a pleasure talking to you.